Good evening, I'm Maribel Tarouk. We begin with breaking news tonight in the trial of two men accused of gang sexual assault at a Toronto bar. Angelina King joins us live outside the courthouse on University Avenue. Angelina, the accused are a former owner of College Street Bar and his former bar manager. The jury deliberating for days on this case.
Yeah, exactly. 4 days of deliberations after hearing 7 weeks worth of evidence and now a verdict. The jury found both men, Gavin McMillan and Enzo de Jesus Carrasco, guilty of gang sexual assault and guilty of administering a stupefying drug. Now, they found de Jesus Carrasco not guilty of an alleged sexual assault inside of the bar when he was alone with the woman, and they could not come to a verdict when it came to an alleged sexual assault inside of his home the following morning. They also weren't able to come to a verdict on the charge of forcible confinement against both men. So the Crown has stayed the charge that the jury was deadlocked on. Now, when the verdict came down, the two men showed little emotion, McMillan hugging his mother tightly, and de Jesus Carrasco looking back at his girlfriend who was in tears. We did hear from the Crown not too long ago. Take a listen.
We are not disappointed. We are very happy and grateful first to the complainant, or I think this is an apt case for the term survivor, who showed tremendous strength and courage through all of this. And she seemed more motivated, frankly, out of concern for the community than for herself.
Now, this all hinged on consent. The jury had to decide whether the woman, who was 24 at the time, had the capacity to consent after consuming multiple drinks and snorting cocaine. Both men testified the sex was consensual, and she testified that she certainly did not consent. Now, this all happened back in December of 2016. Eight cameras in the bar captured 9 hours of video showing many of the sex acts. At times, they were happening together or a separate while the men watched, and they happened in various places in the bar, including the storage room and the office. So McMillan is now on house arrest. He has a sentencing date scheduled for January. Enzo de Jesus Carrasco is in custody. He is not a Canadian citizen, so the judge says that he could be a flight risk. He has a bail hearing in the next few weeks, and then we'll learn more about a sentencing date then. There is one thing the jury did not hear, and that's that Enzo de Jesus Carrasco has now been charged with 3 additional sexual assault charges from different incidents. Women came forward after he was charged in this case, and those cases are expected to be before the courts early next year. Maribel, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks so much for the wrap on this, Angelina. Police have arrested 3 people in a shocking abduction investigation, and they're still looking for 3 others. The incident happened 2 weeks ago in the Annex. Police say 4 people approached a 21-year-old man from behind with a taser. He was choked and robbed before they forced him to a nearby bank machine to withdraw money. He was then taken to a motel in the city's East End and was held there until he raised his credit limit. Police say the suspects emptied his bank account before releasing him. 2 women and a man have been arrested, and police are still looking for Addison Admoon, Arthur McLean, and a 6th suspect that is described as a 6-foot-tall black man between 20 and 25 with a skinny build. They are all considered armed, violent, and dangerous. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Well, while some provinces are reviewing their use of photo radar in cities, Ontario just gave it the green light. Some municipalities, like Toronto, have been waiting for the move and are set to install the cameras. It comes at a time when 34 pedestrians have been killed so far in Toronto this year. Angelina King is back with more on that story.
Add Ontario to the list of provinces that can catch speeders with a roadside camera, followed by a ticket in the mail, but only in school and community safety zones. The province releasing a statement saying it's filed enabling regulations under the Safer School Zones Act that will give municipalities the ability to adopt new and enhanced tools to promote safety in school zones and community safety zones. Toronto's mayor has been pushing for the cameras for years. John Tory says the city will start with 50 cameras, 2 in each ward. They'll be set up in places where the most collisions happen between pedestrians, cyclists, and cars.
the notion of people getting a pretty big fat ticket and that their insurance company will know about it, I think this is going to do a lot to slow people down. And we just can't afford to have a police officer on every corner watching every street. And so I think using technology is a smart way to get the same impact, which is to get people to slow down.
He says tickets will cost hundreds, but it's not about making or losing money.
If it cost a lot of money and we weren't going to break even on it, I would still do it because it's going to be the most effective tool that we have to get people to slow down.
The city has already been testing the cameras in school zones. Tory says they caught some drivers going more than 70 kilometers an hour over the speed limit.
Speed is a huge factor when it comes to whether you survive a crash.
Traffic safety advocate Tom Worrell says the cameras are long overdue. He'd like to see them expanded outside of school and community safety zones.
I think it should be set up everywhere. To me, the City of Toronto is a community safety zone. This is where we work, this is where we shop, this is where our kids go to school.
After 6 months, the government will review the cameras to ensure they're improving safety while retaining public trust. You could soon see signs up in areas like this warning people that photo radar is coming. Cities have to put those signs up 90 days before installing the technology, so Mayor Tory says things will likely be up and running this spring. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, streetcars on Queen Street are up and running again 2 days earlier than expected after they were taken off the route earlier this week. Service was suspended on Wednesday after brake damage was discovered on 25 low-floor streetcars. They were taken out of service so a crew could complete inspection along the entire 501 Queen route. The issue was the supplementary brake system that hangs low to the ground on the new Bombardier Flexity streetcars. The agency thinks that the damaged streetcars all hit the same obstruction or piece of problematic track. The issue was only found on streetcars on the Queen route. Well, crews were out early this morning filling potholes around the city as part of a blitz to get roads ready for the winter.
We'll get those many holes as we can today. I think we'll probably get between 3,000 and 4,000 today. So that'll, again, improve the drivability of the roadway and assist us when we do our winter maintenance.
It is the 6th blitz of the year. About 30 city crews started work on expressways at 1 a.m. and moved onto other roads at 4. Each pothole costs around $25 to repair. More than 183,000 potholes have already been filled in Toronto this year. With a winter storm in the forecast for tomorrow, the city's also focusing on preparations to keep the streets clear of snow and ice. Here, the city's Mark Mills, again, on what's in store.
It'll be probably an all-hands-on-deck storm. We'll have 200 salt trucks, 300 sidewalk plows, and 600 road plows available. It will start probably as a salting event, and as the snow builds up and reaches our levels of service to plow, we have the plows available.
The city is under a special weather statement. We could see anywhere between 5 to 10 centimeters of snow by Monday morning, which is the perfect time to bring Marta in for a bit more detail on what we need to expect here, Marta.
Well, it's going to be a mixed bag of precipitation. It's going to be rain, it's going to be freezing rain, it's going to be ice pellets, and it's going to be snow, and it will continue into Monday. But we'll get to Sunday first. Taking a look at Sunday morning, -1, that snow icon is there. Then by the afternoon, it heats up slightly to 1 degree, which is still below seasonal. For this time of year, it should be around 4 for Toronto, but it feels like -6, so definitely chilly. Looking across the board at Ontario, you can see that rain in through extreme southwestern Ontario. This icon here is that freezing rain in through London. Toronto, you have that snow icon, but again, it's going to move. We're going to break it down for you. Sunday morning, that's where you can see that rain through here. Freezing rain and ice pellets is the pink mixture, inclusive of Kitchener, Waterloo, even up as far as Guelph. Toronto, you have that blue, which is the snow. And by the afternoon, let's take a look at that. Sunday afternoon, that mixing and freezing drizzle just coming just outside of the city, inclusive of areas of Niagara Falls and just south of Toronto. But the Golden Horseshoe really seeing that. Now, taking one step further, by Sunday evening, it's going to be snow. And as you mentioned, up to 10 to 15 centimeters of snow.
Okay, Marta, we'll check in with you a little bit later for the long-range forecast. Thank you. It is a weekend of uncertainty for teachers across the province. Talks are resuming between the High School Teachers Union and the government. The union announced they would hold a one-day walkout on Wednesday if no deal is reached before then. Meanwhile, elementary teachers are already in a strike position, and the union representing the province's English Catholic teachers is a step closer to a legal strike position. Their union requested a no board report yesterday. Those teachers will be in a legal strike position 17 days after that is issued. Toronto hosted its first ever Black Policy Conference today, hoping the event will foster real change.
If we hear more positive things, or if Black people are represented, the community, if we're represented in a more positive light, we'd also start thinking of ourselves as well in a more positive light. And I think that is a start to also creating change.
The conference was founded by 3 Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy alumni. They were inspired to bring the event here after attending the Black Policy Conference at Harvard Kennedy School. Speakers include Black community members involved in politics, academia, and business. New details are emerging about the bystanders who risked their lives to stop the attacker in London yesterday. We'll have a full story on that coming up. Stay with us. ISIS has claimed responsibility for yesterday's attack on London Bridge. We also know more about the suspect that killed 2 people and wounded 3 others. New details are also emerging about the bystanders who risked their lives to stop him. The CBC's Natalie Nanowski updates the investigation.
This dramatic new video from London Bridge yesterday shows a group of men. One is trying to pin the attacker down with a narwhal tusk, the other spraying him with a fire extinguisher. Moments later, police arrive.
It's already clear that this cowardly act was immediately countered by some incredible acts of bravery, both by members of the public and from police officers.
The incident started inside Borough Market, where an event with prisoners and the University of Cambridge was underway. That's when 28-year-old Usman Khan stabbed 5 people, killing 1 woman, and 25-year-old Jack Merritt, an educational coordinator with the program.
At this time, we found no evidence to suggest anybody else was involved in this attack. However, we're still making extensive inquiries.
One of which includes searching the suspect's home. Khan had recently been released from prison after only serving half his sentence for an Al-Qaeda-inspired plot to blow up the London Stock Exchange. His lawyer says he was trying to turn his life around.
He requested assistance with addressing some of his flawed thinking. He recognised that his extreme violent ideology was wrong.
I think the practice of automatic early release, where you cut a sentence in half and let really serious violent offenders out early, simply isn't working.
Police were on the bridge within minutes, killing the suspect after he appeared to be wearing an explosive device. Authorities later confirmed the vest was fake.
And what you saw on Friday in London was an example of the very best response in the world. So it gives me confidence that we're doing all that we can to keep our city safe.
3 people remain in hospital. Doctors say they will likely recover. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in the Netherlands say they've arrested a suspect in last night's stabbing attack in The Hague. It happened on a busy shopping street near the city's historic centre. All of the victims were teenagers. They received treatment in hospital and have been discharged. Police say the man arrested is 35 and has no fixed address. You may remember our story last week about a Canadian veteran making his way to Italy for the first time since the Second World War. Well, he made it, and along with 14 others, gathered today to mark a solemn anniversary. Edmund Arsenault was one of 93,000 Canadians who fought during the Italian campaign in 1943. Their efforts also helped divert German resources from the Eastern Front. The soldiers faced punishing terrain, terrible weather, and numerous brutal street battles. Nearly 6,000 Canadian soldiers died in the fighting. Our Megan Williams was at the commemoration at the site of the Battle of Pontecorvo, Italy.
75 years ago, this beautiful Italian hilltop town of Pontecorvo was the site of the bloodiest one-day battle in the Italian campaign. There were 848 Canadian casualties in that one day alone. Now, this was one battle amongst many along what was known as the Adolf Hitler line. Germans were positioned high up on the hilltop towns. The Canadians and Allied troops had to push the Germans back. They were assailed by bullets and bombs. There was barbed wire all over, landmines as well. These were ferocious battles, and these soldiers were young. What was particularly moving about today's ceremony is that probably for the last time, men who fought in those battles were present. They're now in their mid-90s, some as old as 100, and they still remember. They still dream about those terrible battles that many of them fought when they were just teenagers. And today, Italians and Canadians gathered to commemorate the lives lost, as well as the survivors of those terrible battles. Megan Williams, CBC News, Pontecorvo.
But what we're finding is that even women, 1 in 4 new infections are women.
HIV infections are on the rise in Toronto, and one day ahead of World AIDS Day, a new pharmacy and walk-in HIV testing site has opened its doors. We'll have a full story on that coming up. Stay with us. The number of HIV cases reported in Toronto is on the rise. And today, one day before World AIDS Day, a new walk-in HIV testing site and pharmacy opened its doors in the city. Talia Ricci was there.
In the beginning, it was tough. I was devastated, and so very few people knew about it.
Don Semple says the reality of HIV today is brighter than when he was diagnosed 20 years ago.
Once I realized it was no longer a death sentence, it became a lot easier to deal with and to live the way I should.
But he still says places like the Village Pharmacy are crucial in order to have that mindset. Today, Toronto's first independent HIV specialty pharmacy opened a second location downtown. According to Toronto Public Health, there were 521 reported cases of HIV in the city last year. And the number of cases reported to the agency has increased over the last 5 years. And that's one of the reasons why this pharmacy opened.
The HIV epidemic is not over. Ontario has about 800 new infections every year of HIV. What we're finding is that even women, 1 in 4 new infections are women.
Zahid says they're the first pharmacy to offer HIV testing in Ontario, and the test here only takes 1 minute.
1 in 7 people with HIV don't know that they're positive. So if they don't know they're positive, they don't know to go on treatment, and then they can pass the infection on. Once they're on treatment, they're non-infectious.
Don says while the stigma surrounding HIV has gotten better, it's not gone. So a space like this means a lot more than just medicine.
To be able to sit down and talk to someone, just to vent, or just to be scared without judgment.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Marta is back with the long-range forecast, but I think we need to refresh people on what to expect just in the next couple days, Marta.
Yeah, people are definitely going to need to drive slowly if they are traveling on Sunday. Again, there's some advisories put in place by Environment Canada. So you can see this looks like a pretty colorful map, and that it is. You can see a weather advisory for parts of the GTA. So what's in that advisory is this wintry mix and strong winds. Areas could see up to 60 to 80 kilometer per hour wind gusts, and this will definitely impact travel. So if you are traveling on Sunday, please be cautious. And we broke it down a little bit earlier in the show about the timing of things, but this is just breaking it up into precipitation type. So this is where we'll see the freezing rain risk. Now, much of areas like Kitchener, Waterloo, Woodstock, that's that pink swath throughout. Let's see where we can see the ice pellet risk. So again, Kitchener, Waterloo, parts of the GTA could see that, the Golden Horseshoe in this orange color. And now let's look at that snowfall forecast for Sunday. So the GTA right in there, 10 to 15 centimeters of snow. I know earlier we were saying a little bit less, but now it looks like 10 to 15 centimeters of snow. Now let's take a look at the winds. As I mentioned, as that system pushes through, you could see up to 60 to 80 kilometers per hour wind gusts. Look at that, 76, 75 in Toronto as that Colorado low swings on by. So it's going to be gusty again, impacting that travel. Taking a look at the conditions again, a little bit closer. Toronto, 1 degree, Oakville 1, and it's gonna impact Monday's commute as well with that freezing drizzle in throughout, -1 on Monday.
Lots to watch out for. Thanks, Marta. An art installation in Midtown was unveiled today, 25 years after it made its first appearance. It's called Iron Horse, and it's the work of Toronto artist Robert Sprackman, who came up with the original sculpture in 1994. It's a series of horses lined up across what used to be an abandoned railroad bridge spanning Yonge Street.
It's closed off at both ends. It was kind of run down, but its prominence on Yonge Street was quite spectacular. So I decided I would try and develop a sculpture that related directly to the site.
We produced the first 25 years ago, and when the opportunity came to do this again, we jumped at it, and the newer ones are manufactured using recycled composite materials from the wind turbine industry.
The new horses are made to withstand winds of up to 300 kilometers an hour, and they now take a permanent place overlooking Yonge Street. Mayor John Tory was at today's unveiling as well. He says the Iron Horse installation is an example of the city's renewed commitment to public art.
I think as the city grows and as people are living in high-rise buildings and so on, that the ability they have to come to a place like this and appreciate public art as well as just being able to be outside and be together, those things become more and more important in a city that's growing very rapidly, and it appreciates the arts, appreciates creativity.
The Iron Horse 2019 sculpture can be found on the K. Gardner Beltline Bridge on Yonge Street, just south of Davisville. If you want to hear more about how this artwork came to be, you can watch our Toronto tomorrow at 11 a.m. Around 300 brave souls took an icy dip today into Lake Ontario in support of youth mental health. There they go. The annual Brain Freeze Polar Bear Dip is in its third year. Hardy participants donned bathing suits and jumped into that water in -2-degree weather, all to raise money for a charity supporting mental health. This year's event has raised around $150,000. Great job. And that's our show for you tonight. We're going to leave you with a live look at Nathan Phillips Square. The Cavalcade of Lights is just about to start. The event marks the official start of the holiday season here in Toronto. Music, skating, lighting the Christmas tree. It's all happening down there tonight. If you're there, dress warmly. But have a great night, everyone.